Enchanted Lands, from Kuba, from 11-bit Studios. Please welcome him warmly on our Digital Dragon stage.
Hello. Great to see that so many of you got up after yesterday. So I'll try to talk not too loud, and I won't be playing any loud music, so you can be safe with that. Okay, so what do I want to tell? What do I want to talk about today? And this talk titled "Uncharted Lands, or Why Games Are Discovered, Not Designed," well, hopefully was provocative enough to bring you all here and start to get you thinking. And I'd like to expand on this idea that not all ideas are fully formed and being able to be designed per se, but first you have to find them. Okay, so first thing first. My name is Kuba Stokalski, obviously, and I'm the lead designer for 11-bit Studios, currently working on our next big thing, of which I can't really talk too much, so there'll be just principles today. So, to get things started, what's up with that discovery and exploration thing? Because I've met with a couple of people yesterday, and they were asking me, what's your talk about, and what's the deal with that exploration thing? So the idea here is that while a lot of games can be simply analyzed and designed, you have a general idea of what you want to do, more often than not, that's probably not the best point to start thinking about your idea. Just to get one more thing before we truly kick this off, I'd like to get a quick show of hands. How many of you are building their own games on indie scale, right? Small teams, independent stuff. Hands up. Okay. How many of you are from larger studios working on, let's say, AA, even though there's not, supposedly there's no such thing as AA anymore. Okay. And AAA studios, big stuff. Okay. So we have a mixture of everything, and I'll try to mix things up a bit. We'll get a bit technical and a bit theoretical, but I hope that after all is said and done today, you'll understand why you'll understand why I chose this approach, and it will give you some tools to think about your challenges, whether your project is big or small. Okay. So what's up with the discovery thing? Since we are working in this hyperactive, hyper-changing industry, I'd like to welcome on stage our good friend Cliffy B with one of his most famous, at least one of my favorite quotes, that nobody in this industry knows what they're doing, really. I mean, how many of you know for sure that the game you're working on today is going to be a hit? I reckon not too many. And you have, oh, great, okay, but I think that's belief, right? That's not knowledge. You don't, yeah, right? Okay. Yeah, and this is what we run on, right? This is our fuel. We believe that the stuff we're working on is meaningful. We want to do it, and we believe it will deliver value to the players. Everyone will love it, and this will be the next big thing. But we can't really know for sure. There is no way of knowing in this industry. So to go back to knowledge theory in hyperactive and changing industries such as our game industry, this is the general chart of how we can categorize knowledge about our projects and about our environment in a complex systems world. This is, I don't know if it works. Yeah, it works a bit. This blue wedge here is the stuff that you know about your project and about your general environment and what will happen. This green stuff here is the stuff you don't know. Obviously, we know there are some challenges before us. We know that we'll have to do certain things to address them, but we don't know for sure how they will come out. And the rest is stuff you don't know. And this is that's just reality. This is the core of our environment, our day-to-day work. We operate in a sea of things we have no idea about. So often this game development can look like this, right? We operate somewhere between lost and very lost, and that's on a good day. So then again, there are ways that you can try to use tools that you can maximize your chances of actually making stuff and making something that's going to be a hit, right? And this is why I want to talk about exploration. Development, what we traditionally talk about and mean when we say game development, is usually stuff between broadening the part that we know and taking from the part that we know that we don't know, and we know we don't know, right? And this is what we do when we prototype, when we take a gameplay idea, we build things that will make sure that it's we know it's good, right? That's the most we can do. But exploration is actually operating on this other border between wedges, right? Between the stuff we know we don't know and stuff we don't know. Few, right? So what I'd like to do today here is talk about a couple of intellectual tools that you can internalize and maybe not even use consciously, but as long as you have the knowledge and have the something in the back of your head that will categorize this sea of things you don't know, even unconsciously, then it can help you. Hopefully, it can help you make better decisions in your projects and in your environments. All right, there'll be 3 parts and an epilogue to this talk. And the part 1 is, do we really need innovation? Innovation is, stuff that's talked about all the time. And this question is, well, is it a trick question or not? Yes? Why? Okay, so if anyone didn't hear you, here was a remark that it's not really good to be the first, because first comers don't really sell. But I'd say, while sometimes it's true, I'd argue that, for instance, Minecraft wouldn't agree, or DayZ wouldn't agree, right? But there is some good intuition to this. Hopefully we'll see in a minute how it plays out. Okay, but let's have this thing about innovation in the back of our head. I'm sorry that we're talking about some, such household and done to death terms as innovation, but I think it's really important to understand and frame it well in the context of projects and game development that we're all working on. But let's hold on to it for a minute. And let's go back to the core concept. How important is core concept on a scale 1 to 10? 10? I'd say about 20. Okay? The experience you want to provide to your players has to be embedded in your core concept. In other words, why does this particular game that you're making needs to be made? And of course, there are some simple answers to this question, because we need to make money, or we have a good business formula that works, or a good publishing deal that will make our studio float for a bit, etc., etc. And these are all valid reasons. I don't discount them, but I look at them from a creative direction, design point of view. Why does this game need to be made? Has to be made absolutely clear at the level of your core concept. If you don't know the answer to that question, chances are you will get bogged down the road. And to make these things simple or simpler to think about, if you can't put your game idea into 2 sentences that will get your audience flared up, not everyone, but your audience, then you're doing this wrong. Okay, this is obvious stuff. You all know about the elevator pitch, but think about it. How often do you use it? How often, when you talk about your game, even between your team members or between people, even here, right, in the indie showcase, someone comes up to the booth and what's this game about? Can you tell it? Can you explain it in 2 sentences that will get him flared up? If you don't know how to do that, then you have some homework to do. So let's get some examples. Core concept for this game? Any ideas? Albino mutant slayer searching for his would-be daughter and protecting her, right? This is focused on the narrative, and obviously this is a AAA game, so there's a lot more to that. But the core concept and the main innovation that, as we will see in this game, are focused around narrative, and their core concept can reflect that. Okay, the next will be simpler, obviously, if you were here yesterday when Piotrek was talking. An FPS where time moves only when you do. can't get any more simpler than that, and it's, you know, it's revealing, right? When you hear that, you know, oh God, why didn't I think of that, right? The beauty of a simple concept. Okay, this one will be overly manly dudes crouching behind waist-high walls. Maybe not, you know, as sexy as all of the other concepts, but this actually, you know, works really well. And game from our studio, what it's like to be a civilian during wartime. This is really powerful stuff when you think about it, and it can be put into a simple sentence, right? So, why is core concept so important? The thing is, with game development, I am sure you all will, you know, agree with me that during development you get lots of ideas, lots of different ideas, and it's good because you have to have, you know, many ideas to have good ideas. But a lot of them will be totally inappropriate for your either project phase or your game you're making, for various reasons, from, you know, creative, you know, design reasons to production reasons, like it's not really feasible to, you know, build X, Y, or Z. So you have to have a tool that will be able to, you know, you have an idea, you take this lens and you look through this lens, and, you know, you clearly see whether this idea is something that you should be considering at this point or not. And your core concept is your main tool to do that for all of the stuff that you're making in your game, right? This is not just one thing that you come up with, you know, at the beginning of the project and you use it maybe for marketing stuff. You have to use it each and every day. Remind yourself why you're making this game, why this game needs to be made, and, you know, what this game is really about. What's the player experience here? This is the most important Occam's razor that you can use every day. So in development, design direction is about maintaining true north. Whether the decisions you're making are really the decisions that are best for the project that you're currently in. Right. And the player experience you envision. And this is, you know, this was so far so good. This was pretty obvious stuff. So we come to innovation, right? What is innovation? Any ideas? New stuff, that's obvious, right? But new stuff? Different approach to old stuff. Yeah, that's simply legit. But any ideas? Any other ideas? A deceptively simple definition that actually is, I think, is very useful is new stuff that doesn't suck. It's not very, I mean, it's not very difficult to come up with random ideas that are just different. It's not, you know, you can, you know, put your ideas in columns, your other ideas in rows, mix them up, and you'll have a, you know, 100 unique ideas in about 1 second, right? But that's not the point. The point is to come up with something that will bring value to your players, right? So that's the, you know, that doesn't suck part. And thankfully, we had some innovation, some intuitions about innovation, whether, you know, whether it's good to be first, because, you know, first probably doesn't sell, and this is certainly true for some cases. Different approaches to known problems. This is equally true. And there are very many models that you can look at for innovation, and one of them is actually, I think, very useful. If you know, chart your two axes on a chart, and one is players, either new players or existing players, and on the other one, existing concepts or gameplay, and on the far end, new concepts and new gameplay. The thing that is most intuitively associated with innovation is this stuff. New players, new concepts, new gameplay, right? New stuff. So this is a revolutionary innovation, stuff that will upturn industries, upturn genres, you know, set a paradigm for the future. But this is not the only type of innovation, obviously. Evolutionary innovation is another type. That's either targeting new target audiences with old concepts, making them accessible. We've seen that, you know, with Facebook, for instance, and social gaming. We've seen it with mobile games that, you know, use different paradigms to bring old genres to the new audience. But also new concepts and new gameplay for existing players. This is something that we see a lot on the indie scene, that are trying to bring new concepts, new gameplay ideas for the core audience. And the last one, intuitively, you know, the least exciting, but I'd like to challenge you on that in a second, is incremental innovation, right? Existing concepts, existing gameplays, and existing target audiences, existing people. This might sound boring, but you know, think about that. What's the more revolutionary, the more value-bringing innovation? Coming up with a computer chip in, you know, all the way back in the mid-20th century, or evolving it incrementally into what we have in our computers today that enables us to, you know, render all this stuff that we're building in a split second, right? So it's not that obvious, you know, which one brings more value, and you can think about that building your games. But you know, to chart some titles onto this chart here, new players, new concepts. Well, this is stuff like the Wii, coming up with paradigm shifts, right? Well, what we did afterwards is another wholly other matter, but the time when it came out and targeted this new audience, it was you know, obviously a big hit for Nintendo. New concepts and new gameplay, stuff like Superhot, right? Time moves only when you do. This is an FPS, existing audience, existing framework, existing genre, but completely new twist on gameplay, and this can win you big as well. Call of Duty is the, you know, the ungrateful example here, but obviously, you know, if you look at the Call of Duty as a whole, all the way back from Call of Duty 1 to where we are today, you can see that, you know, it's not just technological advancement. There are really meaningful design improvements here, which are probably not that obvious, you know, in the past couple of years, but, you know, still they're there a bit. And this war of mine, again, as an example, is actually bringing, I'd categorize it as bringing new players into the mix, because while we, obviously the game was, you know, a big hit for us, but, you know, people from mainstream were, you know, coming in and sending us feedback, playing this game and saying, you know, that it brought, you know, different perspectives to their lives, and this is actually very important stuff for us to see feedback from veterans from Afghanistan and also civilians from Afghanistan at the same time writing to us about the game and, you know, saying the things they do. But that's one way to look at innovation. Another one is to look at what we actually do in our games. Broadly speaking, this can be categorized into four areas, obviously, right? Art, technology, gameplay, and narrative. I singled out narrative because not in the sense of storyline in the game, but the whole of the experience that the game provides. And again, innovation in art, anything comes to mind? A game that won big thanks to the art direction? Yeah. BioShock, thanks to art direction. I don't know, actually I'd say it's more closer to narrative with BioShock, I think. Same for System Shock, maybe. Sorry? Ori and the Blind Forest, a very good example. Yeah, that was actually one that I almost put up here. What I actually did was Cannibal, right? A simple endless runner that was, you know, elevated by the whole of the experience of the art direction in this game. Any other ideas? Limbo, yeah, very good idea. Journey, yeah, that's as well. Or there was a lot of more innovation in the narrative aspect, I think, in Journey, to be honest. Think about that. Sorry? Homeworld, in art direction. True to an extent, but again, you know, I think the revolutionary thing about Homeworld will be bringing RTS genre to 3D, right? In a more or less accessible way. But true, you know, it's very, very distinct art direction. Prince of Persia, not a very good game overall. The one from 2008, I think, from Ubisoft. Not a very, you know, particularly, you know, different game, but the art direction was striking, and it worked for them. Technology, again, right? I kind of ride the horse here, but you can bring, you know, other stuff and more, you know, hardcore audience here as well. But technology advancements in the motion sensing with Kinect, it's the same thing, right? VR here as well is the stuff that, you know, the fuels innovation in technology. Gameplay, again, super hot. Talked about that. And narrative, again, this war of mine. I'd say that the biggest innovation that this war of mine had, apart from the core concept itself, was that the stories that the game, you know, let you as a player to play out, right? This was not, they were not, you know, very unique in the scale of the games industry stuff in the mechanics itself, right? We actually had a very, you know, I'll talk about that in a second, unique process to actually designing them, but the narrative, taken as a whole, as the experience of being a civilian during wartime, was the thing that was unique about this war of mine. So, takeaway. How is your game different? You have to know that. You have to know that, and you have to invest your time and effort exactly in that, not in all of the other great ideas that you might have. And, you know, believe me, you can have some really great ideas that do not fit the project that you're currently making. The best way to go about them is to actually write them down and come back to them once you're, you know, filthy rich from the game that you're currently making, right? And the good rule of thumb is, especially for smaller teams, that might not be true for AAA development, where you have, you know, there's a lot more resources and a lot more effort has to go into small innovations and lots of different ideas, like pipeline innovations, production innovations, and stuff like that. But the good rule of thumb is to have one major innovation per project, especially looking at these, you know, categories. Focus on something and stick to it, and that can you know, not you can't be really sure, but it can elevate your chances. Okay, part 2, prototyping and exploration. So we get more to the exploration part now. Who's prototyping in their day-to-day work? I can't believe I can see all of the hands up in the air, because we all do prototyping, right? This is the bread and butter. There's no, you know, it's almost a waste of my, you know, my and yours time to talk about prototyping, but actually what I like to talk about, not if you need to prototype and how to do it, because we all know that we have to do. I'd like us to go a bit deeper into the realm of science even, and try to understand why do we do it. And maybe we can then learn how to apply techniques that we commonly use for prototyping in specific situations so that we are more effective and are more effective with our resources during development. So science, I promised science, and this guy is called Professor Edward Dave Snowden, and he is a scientist. And he works on complex systems and stuff like that, but the thing that he's most famous for is Kinefin framework, stuff that I'd like to talk to you about right now. What's Kinefin framework? This is actually a model that categorizes reality, right? The reality that we all live in can be very different based on the context that we're operating in, especially, for instance, our work context and the project that we're making. So the basic categorization here is we can have unordered and ordered dynamics in our work. The most obvious class of problems that we encounter are obvious problems. When we look at them, the cause and effect between the problem and the solution is obviously known, and there is not much to it. What we have to do is sense what's going on, categorize the problem, assign it, and actually respond to it. And there's not much, not much more to this. And things get more tricky when we go into the realm of complicated problems. Cause and effect is known and can be known deterministically, but you have to actually put effort into knowing what's working and what's not working. This is where analysis comes in. This is where expert knowledge comes in, and this is where you have to really, think hard about what you're doing in order to succeed in a given problem and in a given context. So the proper way to go about it is to look at the problem, analyze it, and give good thought to this with expert knowledge and all the effort it needs, and respond, because this will make sure that you succeed. And this is the simple stuff, because now we go into the real world, where we have mostly complex problems, where while there is a cause and effect relationship between cause and effect, but it can be known for sure only in retrospect. This is stuff that we feel we know we feel we know the answer, but we can't know for sure. And the best way to actually operate in complex environments is to probe, build a prototype, right? Test your assumption, then sense what's going on, and respond accordingly, plan your other actions accordingly. There is no sense in trying to analyze the problem to death, because it can't be done. Cause and effect is known only in retrospect. So that's where our classic prototyping will go, and I'll come back to that in a second, after I present the final unordered context of action, and this is a chaotic environment where no cause and effect on systems level, so on general rules level, can be established. And there is no best way to go about it. The best way to go about it in these types of situations is actually do something. Something is doing something, even seemingly, not really sensible, is the better use of your time than trying to analyze or building a prototype or what have you. Just do something as simply and cheaply as possible, because it will actually maybe switch this chaotic context into some of these other three. And between them is the context that is, often, very often the content of our lives in disorder. We don't know which of these four bubbles we're in. So to have, some examples, obvious stuff is late bug fixing. We know that there are problems in our game. We have to analyze them simply, right? We have to report them and actually, fix them up. Complicated problems are the ones that will require a lot of effort on our part, but they, generally speaking, they can be done. If you put enough effort into them, they will, you will come up on top. Optimization, for instance, usually optimization is one of these types of problems. Complex problems is when you have a gameplay idea and you have an idea that fits your core concept, and you know it will work, but you don't know how to do it to deliver the best quality in the game you're building. So prototyping new gameplay is actually dealing with complex problems. And chaotic is where anyone's guess is good, right? So high concept gameplay ideas, delivering player experience, we don't know that. We don't know what will work. So actually the best way to do it is to actually build something. And if from these 5 bubbles is not, it's not obvious when to prototype and what's actually the difference between prototyping and exploration, I would like to present this. This is actually from a very smart guy called Bill Buxton from his book Sketching User Experiences. And that's the difference between prototyping and exploration, right? Prototyping is iterative refinement of an idea that you have, and you're pretty sure that it will work. You just don't know how to do it, how to go the best way about it, because there's no way you can analyze the hell out of cause and effect in this situation. So you have to build prototypes that will, step by step bring you closer to the solution that you need. On the other hand, design at the early stage is branching exploration. You need to have lots of ideas that will feed off of each other, and you have at any given point you have lots of small and cheap but ways to verify whether the concepts you are actually exploring are bringing you closer to the goal that you're gunning for. Yeah. And one other thing here. Ideas are cheap, right? I mean, that's the common saying. And there's some truth to that. Ideas are cheap. Anyone can have ideas, and thank God for that, because we wouldn't have enough of them. But the way to have good ideas is actually a quite structured process that we can outline here. When you think about new ideas, first you have to discover what's the context of your situation, right? I'm talking about a bit in abstract terms, but I hope it'll be clearer in a second. Discovery is about understanding the challenge, about researching, and about gathering inspiration. When 11-bit Studios started working on this war of mine, what actually the process looked like, it was the team looked into the diaries of people that were civilians in war zones, looked into actually they talked with the veterans, they looked into actual subject matter and thought about how game mechanics and gameplay ideas can stem out from that. So the obvious example was the day-night cycle, right? It was a very real cycle that the people trapped in siege cities were going through, because it was too dangerous to go out during the day, so they had to go out at night. And it was obviously, the idea to have this structure to the gameplay came from inspiration and from research. And there was a ton of different ways we could have gone about that. including just arbitrarily saying that we will have real-time gameplay, and we'll go, just like that. And who knows what the game would look like if we went that way. And that's the process that went into all of the design decisions, right? If you do it for all of the design decisions, then you can be sure that the scope of the problem, you've exhausted the scope of the problem. And once you've gathered this inspiration, you have to interpret it. Right? There was a lot of stuff in the testimonials and the memoirs from the civilians that were not easily transformable into gameplay ideas, right? So you have to make sense of them. You can't just go with a shovel and sweep everything in for production, but also for creative reasons. Once you have all of this stuff that actually you think makes sense, and at this actually point, sketching and exploring what you saw on the previous slide makes the most sense. But once you have interpreted your information, ideation, actually generating ideas, is the way for you to proceed, to have lots of ideas, not just one that you'll hang on to. And once you have lots of ideas, then you can actually look through them and see which makes sense. And this is where experimentation and prototyping actually goes into evolution, into iterative development that we all know from our experience. So the structure to the design process is actually very defined, right? It's not just waving hands and doing some shamanistic stuff to come up with ideas, right? This is you can follow that, and you'll be the better for it if you do that. All the way from the big decisions of what type of game do I want to make, all the way down to how should I build the combat in my game. This is the process that you can follow and be the better for it. This is actually a process that's not, I didn't come up with it. This is actually ideal. The best design consultancy in the world actually, formalized this process. And they've built everything from shopping carts to surgery equipment to wells in Kenya using this process, right? So you can say it's battle tested. Right, takeaway from this part. Learn to sense when you need to branch and when to converge, right? You need to be relatively sure that the idea that you're going to devote your time to is going to converge on something when you kick off prototyping. If not, it's best to look for inspiration and have different ideas. Lots of different ideas, and actually doing and trying a lot of things as cheaply as possible and as simply as possible is the best way to go in chaotic environments when there are no clear signs for you to go any route, any particular route. So we want to achieve something where you have no idea if it's a good idea, right? Prototyping works best in complex environments, so we know X is a good idea, or we are pretty sure about that, but we don't know how to deliver it well. That's when the classic prototyping process will get you and will work well for you. Analysis works best when you know what you have and you need to make it better. Like we're running on 5 FPS, we need target 60, right? Good luck with that. And categorization, just sifting through lots of stuff and just using correct containers for them, works with obvious stuff like we have 4 weeks till gold and we only have 2,000 animation bucks left to do. And also good luck with that. And ideas are cheap, except when they are not. Except when you need to have good ideas that will solve your problems in your game, and not just coming up with stuff that randomly pops up in your head. And there's a process for that. Get inspired, research, then go design. Right. Landing a bit because we are running 35 minutes already. Madhouse management. So how to rein all of this stuff in, because design is a messy process, right? You'll get lots of iterations, lots of cuts on the floor. You'll get dirty, and the producers among us and inside us as well will be better for trying, having some mental tools to actually swim in that sea. One of that tools is the simple and effective, maybe some of you know that already, that impact effort matrix. All of the ideas that we have can be categorized in the simple matrix that will aid your prioritization immensely if you use it for your tasks. So you can have things that are high impact or low impact, and low effort versus high effort. Things that are high impact and low effort are the stuff that you obviously need to do. These are simple things to do that will benefit greatly your game, right? So just do it. more stuff, you know, it's not that simple with high effort, high value stuff. This is probably, you know, the earlier we are in the production process, this is probably the most of our ideas and the most of our things that we're thinking about. But this is actually stuff that needs to be planned, right? You don't just go jump off into stuff that will potentially take you 3 months to even see the light of day, right? So you have to be smart about that. Use all of the other stuff that I've talked about to actually, and you know, bring the process to bear here and go smart about that. Low impact and low effort stuff are the things that we might as well do, right? If there are some, you know, someone is loose on the team and he might be bored, well, why be bored when we can go for a, you know, simple stuff that's not easy, that's not difficult and not very risky to do, but it will benefit, right? And the last one, why are we even talking about stuff that are high effort and low impact? Just, you know, keep them for reference and maybe for inspiration, because, you know, good ideas can come from bad ideas as well, but don't waste time, you know, yours and your team members, you know, talking about stuff like that. And the last thing I'd like to talk about here is the Kano model. I don't know if you've heard that, but this is a model that's used to think about new features and new elements of a product that you're building. So again, we have lots of these 2-axis charts here today, right? First one is the scale of implementation. Either you don't have something at all the way to being fully implemented and working in your game. On the other chart is your player's satisfaction. If you don't have some of the stuff, they'll be angry. And if you have some of this stuff, they'll be delighted and they'll talk to everyone about this game you've built. So the first class of features and elements of your game are the must-haves. These are the features when they are not implemented, it will get people angry. But when they are fully implemented, it will not result in them, you know, going up in joy. Like your game is bug-free, right? That's not something that's, you know, to be particularly happy about. That's something that you're expected to deliver, right? If you buy a bottle of milk, you expect it not to leak, right? This is stuff that has to be in if you want to deliver it to a market. The second class are performance features, stuff that if they are not implemented will result in player anger and disappointment, but if they are implemented well, it will result in joy and in delight. And a good example, think you're making an RPG, everyone expects combat in RPGs, right? If you don't deliver it, or if it's delivered in a really crappy way, well, what the hell, right? I have say action RPG, right? Action RPG, no combat, what's going on, right? But if you do something that's spectacular here, say Dark Souls maybe, right? Then it will lead and it will carry your project and your game all the way through. And the last class of features are the delighters, are the stuff that set you apart. This is the stuff that when they are not implemented, no one will cry for them because they don't know about the possibility of this stuff being in your game, right? And if you do implement it, you don't really have to, you know, do this flawlessly. It just runs on the strength of the idea itself to have this kind of feature in the game, right? The thing with delighters, and this is something that this is the class that will most easily set you apart in the marketplace and you know, bring joy and meaningful stuff if you plan it and design it well into your game. The problem with delighters and our hyper, you know, active industry and all the other industries really, but it's very obvious in ours, is that delighters slowly over time evolve into must-haves, right? Think about the novelty of experience of survival games, right, like DayZ, and look at the survival genre now. It's like bogged down and, you know, or MOBAs, right? League of Legends and First Defense of the Ancients, right? And now everyone's making a MOBA. Why make another MOBA? Unless you have something, you know, truly spectacular to add here. Right. So closing down. Only the best survive, and this is something that's not really, you know, particularly novel to say, but this guy here, Ed Catmull, knows something about that because he's built Pixar, and a company, filmmaking company that most consistently delivers hit films over multiple years, time and again. They probably built some weaker stuff, but weaker in relative to the absolutely outstanding stuff they regularly put out, right? So this guy actually wrote a book which I can recommend wholeheartedly, Creativity Incorporated, where he outlines Pixar's history, but most importantly, he outlines the stuff that the team needs. Whether you're making your game alone, that's actually more difficult and more problematic for you, but whether you're working in a team, regardless of the size, you can be 2, you can be 200 or 2,000, this stuff will either help you be, set apart your game and in your team, in your company, in your culture, or it will bog you down. Candor, because all we want to do, we all want to make the best game possible, right? So it's not just honesty, because honesty can be brutal. And with candor, you have to make sure that even if you make feedback, you deliver feedback to your peers, which is not really pleasant, then they have to know that it's not aimed at them, it's aimed at the problem and at the game that you're trying, all of you are trying to make truly outstanding. You have to have courage because you will fail. That's just life. You will fail. Your games will fail. Your ideas will fail. You will not deliver what you think in your mind is really, so spectacular. You will fail because most ideas, and you have to know, because that most ideas suck most of the time. What you have to deliver and actually evolve in yourself and in your company and in your team, in your culture, in your very bones of your team, is the instinct to know when to kill an idea and when to let it grow, possibly to deliver, to grow into something spectacular. And perseverance, because while you will fail, we all will fail, right? And we will not, make the stunning successes that we all have only in our heads for us. It will take a long time and everything will change 100 times in the process, but there is a possibility, if you go smart about it, to build something that will elevate you and will bring joy and meaningful experiences to your players. So, a couple of quotes from this guy to close down. Candor isn't cruel. It does not destroy. On the contrary, any successful feedback system is built on empathy for your team members. When building this, knowing that you are all in this together, that we understand your pain because we've experienced it ourselves, and we are doing this to build the better game. Ego should stay at the door. Always employ people that are smarter than you, and it doesn't matter if you employ people, if you actually employ people. If you're working with a team, this is, just substitute employ with work with a team, right? Always employ people that are smarter than you, and that's always the risk worth taking, because that's the possibility for you to grow and for your project to grow. Your employees are smart, your team members are smart, and treat them that way. If they are not smart, then why you're working with them, right, in the first place? What is the point of hiring smart people if you don't let them fix what is broken? Make them take chances, but also fix the problems that arise inevitably from the chances that they take. What's the point of hiring people if you don't let them fix what is broken? Sorry, that's repeated. And if someone on your team is afraid of suggesting new ideas, you will lose, because ideas can come from most unexpected places. The most famous quote here: if you give a good idea to a mediocre team, it will mess it up, right? If you give a bad idea to a great team, they will either make the idea great or they will discard it and build something better for you. But the end goal, obviously, is making something great. Not just stroking our ego, just doing this for the fun. You can obviously do it for the fun, but the fun is bringing meaningful experiences to the player. And this is something that I particularly believe in, that this is it's worth being in this industry if you want to deliver meaningful experiences to your audience. And hopefully, the stuff that I blabbered about in the past 43 minutes will help you to some degree in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Kuba. This was packed with some theoretical models and graphs. I hope you have taken some pictures from it. Does anyone have any question, short question? We don't have much time. Yeah, there's one question. Could you come closer? I don't want to mess with speakers.
So you have showed us all those matrices and those frameworks, organized ideas, problems. Do you really have time to use them all in a project? And if you use them all, how you do your work to do it rapidly? Because usually working as a project manager, if I have time to use 2 of them, it's already amazing.
That's very true and a very good point. Well, do I consciously use all of them? No, it's not possible, like you said, right? The thing with these types of ideas is their real power comes in and kicks in the moments that you least expect them. If you know about them and you internalize them, then it will help you make better decisions whether you consciously think about that or not. It's like learning to draw, right? When you learn to draw, you have to think about first, drawing straight lines and then worry about the form and then, develop all of these skills gradually. But when you know all of this basic stuff, then there comes a point when it all becomes effortless. Right, and that's the same thing here, because these are just tools, right? When you use a hammer, you don't think about using the hammer. You just know when to take a hammer and hit a nail on the head, right? So, and apologies. That's true. All of this was very theoretical, but that's again, this is a mental toolbox that I was talking about.
Yeah, and I think that absorbing that, it's always good to extend your let's say unconscious also a toolbox, even if it's not like literally doing every day. Okay, I think that this is the moment to give warm thanks to Kuba for his inspiring talk.